Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. There was some confusion about how to run a CTWN, so I thought maybe we could give a little bit of a demo on running a CTWN analysis. And then if there's any questions, we'll go into that. Okay, so I'm actually going to just start from scratch. Unfortunately, okay, so it signed me in. It automatically recognized me because I had already been signed in, so you didn't see me go through the whole sign-in procedure. But I'm now on the main Faceit screen. I'm going to go to Shared Data, Published Histories, and there's a CTWN. There's actually a couple of them here. I see one from Alison. I'm going to take this second one down, CTWN, that Wei Zhang published on October 14th. And I'm going to import that. Now, what you should do instead of this is just upload your data. Instead of uploading data, I'm just going to go get some data that Wei had already uploaded. So I'm going to start using this history. And this is actually the entire CTWN, but what I'm going to do is recreate the workflow and just use the data that's already here in this history. Okay, so Alison is monitoring the chat window. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat window, or you can just turn your mic on and ask. Okay, so I'm going to click on Workflow at the top. Can you see my screen, or do I need to change the resolution?
We can see
Maybe
it.
I'll just, it's okay. I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger. Okay. So I'm going to click on Workflow. I'm going to create a new workflow. I'll name it Help Desk. Looks like I've already got a Help Desk CTWN, but we'll do that. Okay, and because the CTWN is a sensitivity analysis, all the tools I need are collected here in the sensitivity analysis tools. So I'm going to click on that. And I know I need a Quad UI, I'm going to need a DSAT Plus, I'm going to need an AppSim Plus, and I'm going to need a plotting tool. So now the key is to connect them all together. Okay, so for my Quad UI, I want to add weather. Okay, so I clicked on Add New Weather. So what that does is creates a slot at the on the Quad UI for plugging in my weather data. I have cultivar data, so I want to add a new cultivar. And you can see that that added a slot here on the Quad UI for plugging in the weather data. I'm going to scroll down. My DOME type is a seasonal strategy. For CTWN, we want to use a seasonal strategy. And the run mode is CTWN. Okay, so that's going to automatically add in the batch DOME that allows us to run the 32 sensitivity analyses. Okay, that's it for Quad UI. It's ready to go. It's ready to plug the data in. So now what we want to do is connect up the combined ACE plus DOME, the JSON that's created by Quad UI, and plug that into both AppSim and DSAT. Okay, so that's sending the same data to both. And I want to do the same thing with the cultivar package. Okay, so remember the cultivar package is just passed through. It doesn't do any processing. It's just taking the file that you upload and passing it through to the data directory for each of the models. And then lastly, for my plotting tool, I'm going to add in 2 ACMOs, one for DSAT and one for AppSim. It gives me a choice. I can have box plot or linear. I'm going to choose box plot. I'm going to add an ACMO for my AppSim, and I'm going to add an ACMO for DSAT. And then I plug those in. And that's it. My workflow is ready to go. So I'm going to save it, go up to the little gear in the upper right and save. And then I'm going to run. Okay, so the Galaxy system is very strongly data typed, and it has recognized already that I had a survey data type file, I have a weather data type file, so it's filled these in for me already.
Cheryl, can I stop?
Sure.
How did it know that those particular named files were there? You had to be in a directory where those were the only files available?
Well, okay, so that's a great question. So my current history, yeah, so the current history that's over on the right-hand side, previously I had chosen that history. Okay, so the history had those files there already. Okay, the other way I could have done it is to upload my own files.
Yeah, so history is where you knew the files were available.
Yeah, you can think of that history as like a directory. Okay, so that's my current directory, and so it's looking there for my files. Now, how did it know that to use the survey data instead of the weather data to plug in? We wrote some rules that told it what to look for and what a survey data file looks like. So it actually goes into the file, looks at the data in the file, and said, okay, this is a survey data file.
And the assumption here is that every one of those files that you had created before, a Colovar package or a survey, had to be created and be correct before you come to this.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. So at this point, before you come on to FACEIT, you will have run these probably through Quad UI for a historical analysis. You know, it's that iterative process of getting your DOMs exactly correct, getting your survey data correct, having the correct ICASA data, having complete DOM files, such that your simulation's already run. Once you know your simulation's already run, then you can upload them and you can do the CTWN, you can do all your GCM analyses, you can do your adaptations and so on. Okay? All right, so that's pretty much it. Now there's one more thing. If you upload a file and you know it's there, but it's not recognized, so let's say that this survey data data plugin point does not recognize any of your files as being survey data. And that does happen sometimes. And I'm not exactly sure why it happens. We've got the FACEIT gurus in Chicago looking into this. But if that happens to you, then what you can do is go to your file. Like, here's my survey data file that I know is a survey data file. I'm going to click on the Edit Attributes. Okay, it's a little pencil icon, and it brings up this screen, and I'm going to click on Data Type. Okay, so here it's already recognized that it's a survey underbar zip data type, but if yours says CSV or if it says zip or something other than that, you can actually go in and just tell it this is a survey zip file, and then save it, and then it should be recognized. Okay, so I'm going back to running the workflow, and at this point, everything, it shows all the correct files. You know, if you had more than one weather file in there, you might want to select, you would have a choice here, and you would have to go in and select the correct one. And then I'm just going to run the workflow. So this will take a little while, but fortunately for us, Way has already run these, and so we can just go and look at the plots that come out. And again, this is for that same Neuro data set. this may have been using the old quad UI that did not have nitrogen sensitivity for DSAT.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so this was run, I think, a few weeks ago, and it may have been using the old quad UI. Sorry about that.
What that says is everybody needs to be sure they load the correct one.
Well, if you're running Faceit, the correct one is now in here.
I think that you can go to the code UI step and check the log, and there will be a version there, and you can make sure which version you are currently using.
Okay, so Meng is suggesting that we...
Here, you can check the step 12.
Step 12. Okay, so if I click on step 12...
And yeah, and click the info button.
Click the information button.
And check the STD out for the general log, yeah.
Okay, so you can look at the log of this simulation, and where would I look? Where would I find it?
And here you can see there is a line code which version of the code you are using now.
And that version is the old one?
Yeah, it's older than the former release one, because currently we just released the 1.3.5, and that one now is available in the desktop and not available in the Faceit yet. The production server is not ready yet. So production server is still use a pre-test version, so a beta version for that. But I think this version should fix the nitrogen issue. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll find out when that finishes running. So we'll come back to that later. But at this point, let's see.
We have a question, Cheryl.
Okay. So Subhash is asking, he'd like to know whether this separate cultivar file is needed. Okay, so the answer to that is, if you have calibrated your cultivars and you want to use your cultivars and not the standard DSAT or AppSim cultivars, then yes, you absolutely need that file. If you don't have it, it's just going to use the standard cultivars in DSAT and AppSim.
Cheryl, you would have a specific cultivar name in your survey file, so it would fail.
Yeah, that's
right?
True. If you're that's true. If you are using a different cultivar or something that's not in the standard DSAT or AppSim, your simulations will fail. So any other questions on the CTWN before we move on to just general type questions?
So Subhash's question continues. That means XML files for AppSim and cultivar files for DSAT?
Yes, that's right, and they're in a very specific format. So let me just see if I can find a file that fits that format, because it's really important to get the format correctly, or your cultivar files will not be recognized. So just give me a minute here, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so my cultivar, these are for the Neoro data, but it's the format is the same no matter what data set you're looking at. So I've just opened up the zip file. The name of my zip is cultivars.zip, and does it have to be that? Or
No.
Okay, so it can be any name. And inside there are two folders, AppSim _ specific and DSAT _ specific. You have to have these, and what that means is that anything that's in this DSAT _ specific folder is going to be passed through with no translation, just passed through intact to your DSAT data directory. Okay, so you can put, you can put other files in there as well. Like you could put both a 045 and a 046 cultivar file if you wanted to. Same thing with AppSim. Okay, so in the AppSim _ specific file, they've got the maize XML, which is their equivalent of a cultivar file. And if there are other AppSim specific files that you want to transfer through, you would do it in this way. Okay? Would you like to see any other workflows simulated?
Hi, Carol.
Hello.
You can try one for climate, an example for climate.
Sure.
Please do.
Okay, so I'm going to click on the climate toolshed. Now, I may need to upload a file.
There's
Okay.
some in our histories. You can
Okay,
steal.
so I'm going to go, first thing I'm going to do is open up a history that has the correct kind of files. Okay, so I'm going to go to Shared Data, Published Histories, and let's see. Wei, help me out here. Which should I use? Here's one that calls Climate Scenario Fail, so I really don't want to use that one.
There's one called Multiple GCM. Is that two GCM? Maybe it's too many files, but...
Okay. I don't see it. Oh, this, is that the one?
Cheryl, if you scroll down.
That's a cross
Data for climate demo.
This one?
Down. Yeah, that's okay. Fine.
Looks like this one had a problem too.
Yeah,
But...
we just use the climate data. Yeah, so USA and...
Okay, so I'm going to import that history, and I'm going to start using the history. Now keep in mind, the history that I had before is still there. I can click on this View All Histories, and I can see that it's still there. And I don't know why, Alison, maybe you know why this is not even, this has not started running yet.
So I think what's probably happening is that Rafaele is running something very intensive right now, which I forgot to ask him to stop doing before the webinar, but I'll ask him to shut it down. But this is something that you will expect to see. If 10 of you are on the site at the same time running something, it may be gray for a while as other people's jobs go. We'll once we have a lot of heavy usage, we'll expand the instance so that won't happen more.
Okay.
So if you start to run into that consistently, please shoot us an email, and we'll increase the compute power.
Okay, great. Thanks, Alison. So this is, because these are gray, that means they're still in the queue, and somebody else is running things that have kind of, just delayed my job from starting. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the climate scenario. So I've got a couple of .agmap files here. These are what we can use as inputs to the climate tools. Okay, so in this case,
Hey Cheryl, sorry to interrupt. Maybe you want to demonstrate how we can get rid of anything else in our history we don't want.
Like these ones with the red X's?
Yeah, or steps 3 through 10, because we're going to be reproducing them right now.
Okay, all right. So it's very easy to delete things. It's like deleting a file. You just click on the X, and it's gone. And good idea. Let's just clean up this workflow. Okay, so now we've got just these two input files. So I am going to create a new workflow, and I'll just call it climate demo. I'm going to open my climate tools, and the first thing I want to do is, okay, I've got these two .agmap format historical files, and what I want to do now is take those and spread them around to my other sites in the region. And I'm going to do that with the generate.agmap farm sites weather.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And what I'm going to do when I get my outputs from that, in fact, I could just run this without a workflow. Is that typically how you work?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run that.
Yeah, the workflow has the learning steps.
All right. Sorry. I should have gotten somebody more experienced to do this. Okay, so instead of doing it through a workflow, I'm just going to run the tool, okay? And Wei says that that's typically the way he runs these, and he developed these apps, so he's really the expert. I have the expert sitting right here, so. Okay, so I have a choice now. I've got two .agment files, so I can use one or the other. I don't think it matters which one I use.
This is Kenya, so you.
Okay, so he's saying use the Kenya because that's where I am already. I'm going to give it a short name. That's for Embu, Kenya. It filled in these headers automatically, and it also filled in some latitude and longitude automatically. So should I just keep these? Are these close enough to this site? Okay. There's a few tricks here. Don't put any spaces in, okay? And my list of latitudes correspond one-on-one with the list of longitudes. So this minus 0.55 and the 37.46 gives me 1 point that I'm going to be generating a weather file for. Okay, and I can select the region. There are various regions. This tells it which set of climate data it's going to go get to generate these sites. So it's really important that you select the correct one for your latitude and longitude. In this case, it's East Africa, and I'm going to execute. Okay,
Cheryl,
so
what have you done here? You're just creating a specific weather set, but you still need to link it with the crop models?
yes, so these set of climate tools, right now they're not really linked directly with the crop workflows. We could do that. We kind of made a conscious decision to keep them separate because it's different researchers that are using these different tools. You know, if there's a demand for linking them directly into the crop models, we could do that. And as a matter of fact, that's something that maybe you and Alex and some others need to talk about. Is that what we want, or should we keep them separate? You know, it was kind of our idea that it's different researchers. The climate scientists need to run the climate tools, analyze them, look at the outputs, you know, make sure that they're correct before passing them off to the crop modelers. So
basically, this is for climate analysis.
Yep.
Okay.
These tools are for the climate scientists.
But I just want to jump in and clarify one thing, which is that when Cheryl says pass them off, that all can happen in FACEIT. So the climate scientists can share those files, right? And then they can be used again. Correct, Cheryl?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So your climate scientists can then share the data with their crop modelers. Yeah, that's right. So you don't have to download it, then re-upload it. Okay, so I don't think we're going to actually get the results of this out because it's not even running yet. So in the meantime, let's take a question from Bright. He says, when are we to expect the version 1.3.5 of Quad UI on FACEIT? So that's already available on the desktop application, and it should be ready on FACEIT.
Currently, I'm handling my ISO. After that, it will be available. I think I'll finish that within today.
Okay, so Meng's working on another issue that he wants to push up to the next version, and so I would say by early to mid next week.
Okay. Yeah.
That it will be on FACEIT. So it's got to be built in Quad UI. Then we've got to put it on the development instance, test it, and then push it up to production. So it takes a few days.
We'll send out an announcement on the FACEIT users list when it's out. We also have another clarification from Subhash about the DSAT wheat simulation files.
So Subhash, if you have created a new ecotype, then yes, you would want to pass through your ecotype file as well. And you just put it in that same DSAT specific folder in your zip file, and it will be passed through and available for the simulations. Okay, so I'm going to show another climate tool, since that was the question from Mary. So this is, I'm going to look at the AgMIP CMIP5 analyzer. Okay, so this one asks, do you have a weather seed file? And if you have some historical data, it's going to improve your results. So if you have it, you should select yes. It's going to look for a .agmip file, which we have in our current history. And then you can give it the range of months that you want it to analyze, the starting month. And in this case, the default is June, and the ending month is September. You can select the RCP that you want to look at, RCP 4.5 or 8.5, and you can select the time period, near term, mid-century, or end of century. And what it does is analyzes the CMIP5 model output for a given location and makes a scatter plot showing which model is which. Okay, so this is that tool that creates that temperature versus precipitation and plots the location of each of your GCMs on one graph. So I think this takes a little while, but I will go ahead and execute it. Do we have a finished product that we can show them? Okay, so I'm going to go to shared data, published histories, and where is it? Climate demo? That's from June. No. It's got to be more recent. Okay, so I'm gonna have Wei share a recent workflow with me, so I can get that. In the meantime, are there any other questions or any other things that you would like to see? Okay, we can see in the CTWN, AppSim is already run, DSAT is currently running, so we should be able to see the plot results fairly soon. So I know some of you have been able to use FACEIT for CTWN and other types of analyses. One of the recent fixes that we've worked on is in the AppSim translator, the XF parameter. This is one of the things that came out of the crop modeling webinar a couple weeks ago, was that previously the XF parameter was set equal to the DSAT root growth factor. Based on feedback from the AppSim group, that's absolutely wrong. The AppSim translator has now been updated such that that XF parameter can be input. It's an ICASA variable called SLXF. You can put it in the DOME, you can put it in your soil data, and it will use the values that you input. If you don't input any values, it's going to use a value of 1 through the entire soil profile. That's based on the recommendation of the AppSim modeler, model leaders. So this new version of Quad UI that that Bright was asking about will have that new feature in it. The desktop versions that you can download from tools.agmip.org already has that fix. Okay, so we're just waiting for that to be available in Faceit now. So that's, you know, for those of you running the AppSim runs, that's a really important thing that we didn't get it right on phase 1. That was something, a decision that was made early on that was incorrect for the AppSim translator.
Cheryl, this is Kent. John Hargraves pointed out something that we need to check on. I'm not sure I have the answer yet, but he just sent this morning, and that's an issue about whether the manure is or is not incorporated or prior crop residues. We may need to do some explicit tillage events in this. The question is whether AppSim, you know, Sentry, if you put it on the surface, mineralization occurs, you know, even if you apply it after sowing.
Okay, so the feedback that we just got from John Hargraves this morning is that we may need to add explicit tillage events to the survey data.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at Meng right now. I don't know yet whether the AppSim translator will interpret that. So that's something we're going to have to look into.
The question is partly how the models run too. You know,
well, it's not just, yeah, that's true. It is how the models run, but it's also, do our translators have the ability to take tillage data and translate that to the models? Yeah. And I don't know the answer to that yet.
Yeah. I mean, the practical case is that no tillage is really not an African or South Asian phenomenon. So when someone plants, usually there's tillage prior to that. And if you put it on during the season, well, then there's another issue.
Okay, so I'm making a note to look into that.
Yeah.
And we'll have to get with the AppSim folks to find out how their translator handles tillage or whether it handles tillage. So that's, yeah. And DSAT for that matter. I'm not sure the DSAT translator handles tillage right now.
Well, DSAT handles the tillage.
Okay, so Meng says DSAT does handle tillage.
But the question is whether we have to turn it on to explicitly do something occasionally, and maybe we should.
Yeah, that's right. So you'd have to have a tillage event in your data for that to be triggered in the model.
Yeah. And we probably should, because tillage is a common phenomenon in African Indian agriculture or Pakistan.
Yep.
AppSim translator have the tillage event handling, but it's very simple, just the depths and.
Okay, so Meng says that it does. AppSim translator does handle tillage, so. We probably should come up with a template that shows how you would enter a tillage event.
Yep.
So let's again, I'm looking at Meng to have him come up with that template that people can use for input data. I mean, it's not difficult. It's going to look a lot like actually it's simpler than a fertilizer event.
Yeah, for AppSim, currently they just require the depth and the operation code, just for that.
Yeah, and a date.
Yeah, because that is an event.
Okay, yeah. Okay, any other questions or issues?
So you can see the parameter, plots in the public history. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to go to shared data, published histories, climate TMP.
Yes.
Okay. So this is something that Wei just shared. So this is the results. This is what you'll get out of the GCM scatter plot. So does it matter which one I look at? Okay. Okay, so this is the standard plot. This is really nice. So for your latitude and longitude that you've chosen, it runs all the GCMs, or takes a look at what all the GCMs would do during that range that you specified, and puts it into these quadrants that Alex described. So this is how the teams would then select the GCMs that will be used in the phase 2 analyses.
I have a question for Wei Zhang. Can I identify location just knowing the USAM?
This USAM is the location is specified by the .atmap file. So the latitude and longitude is already in the file. So you also can specify the latitude and longitude based on your data or locations.
So the USAM is the climate ID.
That's right.
Or not the climate ID, but the weather station ID.
Weather station ID, yeah. So
I mean, my point is basically an identification of where this, the location for this graph.
So it would be nice to have the text string of the location on the label. Is that your point, Ken?
Yes. It seems a little bit lost here for an uninformed person that doesn't know the climate codes.
Yeah, well, you know, if you were the one to run this, you would know exactly what it was, but it wouldn't be that difficult to add the text of the location on the label.
There's a description of the location, such as for Kenya Ambo, there's Kenya Ambo, maybe we can put it on the title and make it more clear.
Right, I think that would be good. Keep the 4-character code, but also label it as the location. Good. Okay, so are there any other questions? Has anybody had any trouble joining the FACEIT group, or logging on, or getting your credentials to log on? I think we should start with the basics. Okay, any other workflows that people want to see? I mean, I'm not hearing any questions, but that doesn't mean there's not difficulties. I know that. Would it be good to run through another crop modeling exercise?
You'll need multiple GCM running, so they can simplify their simulation more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we have already have a history, just share the
okay.
history.
Okay, so Wei Zhang suggested that I show a multiple GCM simulation. And so there's a published history. I'm going to go to shared data, published histories, the batch GCM test from October 9. Okay. I'm going to import that history, and I'm going to start using this history. Okay, so he's already run the entire thing, but what I'm going to do is use his data to create a new GCM batch simulation. Okay, so I'm going to go to Multi-GCM Tools. Well, wait a minute. First, I need to start a new workflow. Workflow, create new workflow. This is Multi-GCM demo. And I'm going to click on Multi-GCM Tools. And again, we need a Quad UI, we need a DSAT Plus, we need an AppSim Plus, and we need some standard plots. Now, the reason that these are different tools for multiple GCMs is that it's running looped translations and looped simulations. And so the outputs come out as zip files instead of JSON and instead of the standard ACMOs. So it was expedient to create a different tool that accepts those inputs and has those outputs. So for the quad UI, again, I'm going to add a weather. I'm going to add a cultivar. I'm going to scroll down. The dome type is, again, seasonal strategy. And that's it. Everything else is good. So now I can take my ACE plus dome package. Okay, so this is a zip. Okay, this is for every GCM that we're going to run. And I'm going to plug it into DSET and AppSim. I'm going to plug in my cultivars. And I'm going to take my ACMO zips. Oh, wait a minute. I need to add. Okay, so when I click on the standard plots, all my options become available. I can tell it whether I want box plots or CDFs as output. I can give it a plot title as being, I guess this is Neuro. And is that it then?
Here, Cheryl, what is the harmonized data package? The bottom of your quad UI from multi-GCM. What is that?
Oh, yeah, Ken, those are all the ACE, DOME, and A-Link files that are in binary format. Those are what. Yeah, so those are what you would upload to the data site. Once you get everything running in the way you like it, that's what would be archived permanently.
Okay.
Don't use this Apple. Yeah, use the Apple that called standard load.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. Okay, so Wei told me I'm using the wrong plot. So I want the standard plots instead of this one. So I'm gonna just get rid of that. And the reason is that this one accepts multiple ACMOs. Okay, so I'm going to add an ACMO. And I need to tell it that it's a zip format. And I can label it as AppSim. And I can give it a color of blue. And then I can add another one. It's also a zip. This is my DSAT. And let's give it orange. Okay? And we can aggregate data if we want. I'm going to leave it alone for now. Or we should aggregate by climate, right?
It's already aggregated by the...
Okay, so it's already going to be aggregated by climate. Okay, so now I can plug this in here. I can plug this in here. Am I ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to save it. And I'm going to run. Okay, in this case, it has not recognized my input files. Okay, so this is a case where I'm going to have to go tell it that my survey data is not just a regular zip, it's a survey data zip. And I don't know why it does this sometimes and not others. Okay, so I do that and suddenly it's the correct format. Okay, so what else was wrong with this? Okay, it doesn't recognize weather, cultivar, field overlay, or seasonal dome.
Then it's an older history, so...
Okay, so Wei explained that it's an older history. It was uploaded probably before these rules were put in place, and so the data types were not established at that time. This is my weather zip. But this is good because this will happen. So it's good that you see how to fix it. Okay, this is a field overlay. If you upload your files today and use this app, it should automatically recognize them. Okay. Okay, so let's see now if I can go back to my history. Nope. Oh, I didn't get my cultivar. Okay. Okay, so now it has recognized everything, except I have a choice here on the batch DOM, so I need to explicitly tell it to use this GCM batch file. Everything good now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so one thing I want to look at here is this GCM batch file. This is something that you upload, okay? This isn't automatic, and so I'm going to take a look at what's in here. It's, again, it's coded like a batch DOM, so you have to kind of know how to read it. But what it's saying is that in this batch, we're going to run the current conditions, the 0xFX, and then we're going to run 5 different climate scenarios, the IEFA, IIFA, IKFA, IOFA, and IRFA. And it specifies the CO2 amount for each one of these, and it's going to do these looped simulations. It's going to loop the translations first, and then the zip file of translated data is going to go to each batch model, and then it's going to do loop simulations. Okay, so these really take a while. This is where FACEIT is really nice, because you can launch your simulation and then come back, go have dinner or whatever, and come back, and hopefully it'll be done. Because it really does. On a desktop, this would maybe not even be possible. It would just take too long. And again, this is something that you want to make sure your data are clean and running perfectly. You don't want to be troubleshooting errors at this point. At this point, you want your data to be good, your DOMs all working, and you want to just push the button and let it crank through the simulations. Any questions? This one will take a while. We're not going to wait for it. I can go back and look at the histories that we've already run. Okay, so we saw that one. This is the CTWN that just ran this morning. Again, it's Neoro. There's the CO2 sensitivity for 2 different fertilizer rates. And it's not very sensitive to fertilizer, is what we're seeing. Even here, it's not sensitive to fertilizer. There's the temperature response and the rainfall response. And again, the fertilizer, it's just this particular simulation is not sensitive to fertilizer. It's very low yielding.
Cheryl, we need to figure out what's going on there, because how can we parameterize a model to have no response?
Yeah, well, we looked at this a little bit. Well, there's 2 things here, Ken. First thing we need to make sure is that it's using a quad UI version that gives the nitrogen inputs correctly.
Okay.
And second thing is, if it truly isn't responding to nitrogen, it's probably because it's so water limited.
Hmm. Except that the water limitation looks about like the, well, yeah, the one above. the center point should be at the 100%, right, for the water?
Yeah. Yeah, actually DSAT is the red.
Yeah.
So it's
something's not clicking. Don't know what it is, but we need to get into the individual file X's setup that come out of the Quad UI.
yeah. Yeah, we can actually look at that pretty easily. Whether we want to do that right now, I don't know.
No, we don't need to do that here.
Yeah, I think we're almost at the top of the hour. Are there any other burning issues? It looks like some people have already climbed off. Mary, were there other things that you wanted to look at in the climate?
I tried to create some workflows. Yeah, I tried to create some workflows, but I think I hadn't fully understood how to insert the different files. I'll try and do it now with more. Now that I know, I've seen how you're doing it.
Okay.
Probably get it back. Yeah.
Well, just
Cheryl?
send us an email if you have any questions. We'd be happy to help you one-on-one as well.
Yeah, can you also real quickly, Cheryl, show us how to share your history? So if you have an error, you can share it and then have us look at it.
Yeah, good point. So let me go back to a history that's not currently running, like this one, and I will switch to this history. Now notice when I click on this Face It Galaxy, it goes back to the normal screen, and my history's over in the right-hand panel. And so if I want to share this history, I'm going to go up to this little gear button at the top and click on it. And I'm going to say Share or Publish. And then it's going to say Make History. I'm going to choose the Make History Accessible and Publish. Okay, that's going to make it public. So anybody on Faceit would be able to access it then. Now, Alison, do we have the ability to share with a specific user?
I think so.
Okay, that's something that I've never done. So
You have to, one complication is you need to know what their Globus user account name is that they signed up with. So you need to know that from them, which is not necessarily just their name.
And so how do you find that out?
For yourself? Good question.
Okay,
I think
so
it's
go up
logged
to
in right
user.
there.
Yeah, so I go up to user and it tells me what my Globus name is, so I'm CH Porter. Okay, so you need, if you want to share it with another user, you need to ask them to tell you what their Globus Online username is.
Or another way is just send the link.
Yeah, give him the link. Yeah,
The link is easier.
Ah, okay.
So by that way, you don't need to share the history to everyone. You just create a private link and copy the link to your email or some message or something. And then
Okay, so you just copy this link
yeah.
and send it to them, and as long as they're logged in, they can see it then?
yeah. I actually just click the unpublished history and we do that again. So yeah, so you already enable the link. So usually there's two buttons. So don't click the publish history. That means everyone can see it in the published history list. Just enable accessory to history via link. So by that it will generate a access link, and the people got this link can see your history.
Sure, can you just try to share a different history so we can see that button?
All right, let me go. I'll switch to this one, and then I will share or publish, make history accessible via link, and then I can just copy this link and send it to somebody in an email, right?
Yeah. But make sure is that here they use the HTTP, but make sure to change it to HTTPS because some browser may be sensitive to that.
So Meng's saying that instead of, you're going to have to manually change the link to HTTPS.
Yes, because some browser is sensitive for that. Then some browser is fine, like Chrome seems fine. But
okay.
Maybe.
Okay, so if it doesn't work, change it to HTTPS.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm learning things too here, so this is good.
With individual users, so if you know the names, you can add an photo.
Right, yeah, and share history with an individual user. Okay. Well, we've pretty much used up the hour. If there are any other questions, we'll be happy to stay on. Otherwise, happy computing, and please let us know. You don't have to wait till next month's help desk to get help. And let me just put up the help information again, just so you can see it. Okay, thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. And get out there and use it. Give it a try if you haven't.